Hendon Hooker must be the best quarterback on the field tomorrow night, period.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It is Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day on a Thursday, August 7th into Friday, August 8th. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you to those of you that subscribe and watch us for free on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel as well. The great Colton Pouncy covers the Lions for theathletic.com is going to join us momentarily as we get you ready for Lions and Falcons tomorrow night, preseason game number 2. From down in Atlanta at 7 o'clock, a game, of course, you can listen to on the ticket or watch on Fox 2. Today is August 7th. It's a bittersweet day for me. Today would have been my father's birthday. My dad passed away over 20 years ago, but August 7th always holds a special place in my heart because we would have been celebrating my dad today. I am celebrating two of my very good friends. One is an everydayer, Joe Allen. Happy birthday, Joe. And, of course, the greatest engineer there ever was, there ever is, the great Albert Dale is happy birthday, A.D., the ladle. Nobody better. We got Colton Pouncy coming up, like I said. We got to get you ready for the game tomorrow night, Lions and Falcons. Let me say this before we get to Colton. 2 notes to get to. Number 1, tomorrow night, the Atlanta Falcons will be starting. Let me make sure I get this right. The Falcons will be starting at quarterback Easton Stick. So no Michael Penix, no Kirk Cousins. Easton Stick, and then Emory Jones is going to play the second half. So the 4 quarterbacks that we're going to watch tomorrow are Easton Stick, who, if he was any good, Jim Harbaugh would have kept. He was with the Chargers last year. Easton Stick, somebody called Emory Jones, who played in 3 colleges and was in the UFL. Hendon Hooker, who will start for your Detroit Lions, and Kyle Allen. And look, it's exhibition season. You're not going to get a lot of the regulars. Nobody's going to overreact. I'm not going to overreact, but I want to see Hooker play well. There is no reason why, after tomorrow night, after we all sit and watch this game, that we don't walk away with who we saw 4 quarterbacks play. Who was the best quarterback on the field? It's got to be Hooker. He's got to take a step forward. All right. Lions drafted him in the 3rd round a few years ago for a reason. He's got talent. We just haven't seen it at this level. He has had his ups and downs at training camp the last couple of years. He's had his ups and downs in the preseason the last couple of years. He was basically demoted at the end of last year for Teddy Bridgewater. But now, Easton Stick, Emory Jones, Kyle Allen, come on, Hendon. Beat all these guys out tomorrow night. Show us who's boss. Show us you're the best QB on that field. Got to see that tomorrow. That's number 1. Number 2, in case you missed it earlier today, Ennis Rakestraw, Lions cornerback, posted on his Instagram a picture of himself going in for surgery. Yes, that is correct. Ennis Rakestraw having surgery on his injured shoulder. I'm certain that Dan will give us an update tomorrow at some point, either before the game, maybe on the pregame show with Dan Miller on the radio, or maybe on the broadcast, who knows, or postgame. But Ennis Rakestraw posting a selfie of himself going in for surgery means he's going to be out a while. All right. And I know that's something that Dan Campbell said the other day, but when you're on your social media and you're posting pictures about going in for surgery, you're not going to be back in a few weeks. That is for sure. What did the Rakestraw say exactly? So I can make sure I get this right. Poor job by me to prep everybody for this. Ennis Rakestraw posted, "Road to be back starts soon." And he's laying down in the hospital bed, getting ready for shoulder surgery. So another blow to the Lions secondary. This has been his MO, unfortunately. Ennis Rakestraw has been injury prone going back to his days at Missouri. So guys like Rocky Sin, Khalil Dorsey when healthy, Eric Hallett, these guys are going to have to step up in Rakestraw's place. Rakestraw, we were hoping, would be really the first cornerback off the bench this year after Amik Robertson, DJ Reed, and Terrion Arnold. You're going in for shoulder surgery. We're not going to see him until at least November, you would think. So we'll ask Colton Pouncy about that too coming up. As we preview Lions and Falcons, get Colton's thoughts on everything going on with the team, including Colton, Justin Rogers, Jeff Iafrate, and who am I missing? Will Birchfield, all with a new Lions podcast that Colton is going to tell you about. Hey, the more the merrier. We'll do that coming up next, right here on Locked On Lions. And of course, Locked On Lions brought to you by FanDuel. We got preseason football tonight. Summer sports still in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more interesting? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned this summer at the beach, all right? It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you are part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, as promised, Colton Pouncy with us, covers the Lions for theathletic.com and has a new podcast coming out, or is part of a new podcast coming out and is out. Always great to chat with him. Colton, good to see you.
Yeah, good to be here with you, Matt. How you doing?
I'm well, my friend. Preseason game number 2 coming up, but first and foremost, the new podcast. Plug it. Tell us what's going on. Apparently, your shirt was off. What's going on?
Yeah, got a new Lions podcast through a company called Hog Media. It's called Lions Collective. Doing it with Justin Rogers, Will Birchfield, and Beat, Jeff from Crunch Time Sports. So yeah, it's a really good group of guys. I'm glad we were able to make it work. Kind of talking about it all off season, like what's the right group of 4 for a show like this, and kind of made it work there at the end. So just launched the first episode yesterday. Pretty excited about it, and we'll be going live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. So check us out. Yeah.
Love it. Lions Collective. I joked about the shirt off. They were ribbing you on social media for your shirt being open. So
exactly.
Look, what can you say? You're a sexy guy, right?
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's funny. The reason I was brought up is because Coyote Awosika, after practice, came up to me and was like, "Hey man, you've been lifting this offseason? You've been working out a little bit?" And I was like, "I have. I've dropped some weight, and I was wearing a low cut shirt, and I guess someone in the comment section asked me to show some more chest hair, so I had to give people what they wanted. That's how that went down."
Man, well, maybe we'll get Justin Rogers to do it next time.
Yeah, he's up next.
All right. So I said before you came on, one thing I want to see tomorrow, if Hendon Hooker's, we're talking about Easton Stick playing and Jones and Kyle Allen. Isn't this a night where, like, tomorrow night after the game, we all sit there and go, Hendon Hooker was the best quarterback on the field? Doesn't that kind of have to happen?
Ideally, the stars are aligning for him to get an extended look here. Lions have kind of been alternating quarterbacks in practice, and they're doing the same thing in these preseason games where one day Kyle will be the first out there with the second team, and then Hendon gets the third team reps, and then vice versa. They alternate. We saw it in the preseason game where Kyle got the first half, Hendon got the second. At this point, I think if you're the Lions, you need to give Hendon as much time as possible. I don't know what you're learning putting a guy like Kyle Allen out there. I know they're trying to be fair and do this like equal time split, but
sure,
you invested a 3rd-round pick into Hendon Hooker, and it's year 3 for him, and you've challenged him this offseason that you want to see more. And I don't really know what you're gaining by playing him with the 3rd and 4th string guys that are out there. I didn't think they did him any favors in that preseason game, but I also think he had a rough game himself and was kind of missing high, a little bit inaccurate, never really got into a rhythm there in the second half. So if you give him the entire first half, maybe even into the third quarter, I would like to see that. Just an extended run so you can fully evaluate this guy. That's kind of where my mind's at. Kyle's a veteran. You know what you have in him. I'm not sure that's the case with Hendon.
You've been at all the practices. So some of the fans get in and out, and obviously, show up to 1 or 2. We all watch the Hall of Fame game, but how would you assess Hooker overall with everything that you've seen so far?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that he had the performance he did in that Hall of Fame game, because he's looked really sharp in these practices, and I would say it's the total opposite of what we saw in that game. And it's hard for us. We're reporting like, oh, he's looking sharper, he's getting the ball out faster, he's thinking a little bit less out there. It seemed like at times last year he was almost waiting for a guy to come open instead of throwing him open when the throw was there to be made. It almost felt like in this game it was maybe overcorrection a little bit, like trying to get the ball out too fast in some ways, and trying to process too fast, because that's what the coaches have been instructing him on. But it didn't look good. I thought he was kind of too early on some of his passes, where the wide receiver would still be running his route when he's ready to get the ball out. And it's like, hey man, now it's time to slow down. You got to find that middle ground. So I almost feel like he overcorrected on some of the things that were issues last year. But overall in practice, he's looked really sharp. He's looked like he's been calming down a little bit. You would like to see more of that, and you need to see that continue in these preseason games. But from what we've seen in practice, he's looked like a better player. So it's just unfortunate that it hasn't matched with what everyone else sees when these games are on.
Dan Campbell alluded to it yesterday. There's a chance that maybe a Tyleik Williams or Tate Ratledge plays in this game. What do you think?
I would like to see him out there personally. It's just a matter of does Dan think they're too important, which at this point they're looking like it. Tyleik has been out there with the first team really since day one. He has not deviated. He's not gotten second team reps. Like, he is a bona fide starter on this defensive line without Ali McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike for the season. Mekhi Wingo still recovering from a meniscus injury. So he's getting every rep out there, and he's too valuable, maybe, if you want to say that, to throw him out there. But at the same time, I do think he could use some reps. So personally, I'd like to see him get a series, maybe two, but that's about it. I think that's all you need to see from him. And I would say the same thing for Tate Ratledge. He's pretty locked in. It's at the beginning of camp, there was like this debate: should he play center? Should he play guard? Is he even ready for center? And at this point, really, I would say since the first 4 or 5 days, I've locked him in at right guard. I'd be shocked if he doesn't start the season at right guard. I would be surprised if he gets more run at center there. So yeah, I think you really know what you have with these guys. So if you don't want to risk the injury, I totally understand. A lot of Lions fans are concerned about injuries right now after last year, but at the same time, I don't think a series or two would be the worst thing. Just to get throw them out there in a game situation, see how they respond, and then keep it pushing.
You just mentioned the offensive line when discussing Ratledge. I know shaky in kind of that scrimmage the other day, and I know Manu has really struggled, and they've had to throw him in there because Decker's not ready to be out there yet, and Skipper's been hurt. But can you talk a little bit about the offensive line, what you've seen, and how you think they're progressing, or maybe not progressing so far?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to evaluate the offensive line right now, just because Taylor Decker hasn't been out there, and he's such a key part of this group. And when he's been out, you've had Dan Skipper and Jamarco Jones sometimes. Both those guys are hurt right now. So now it's Giovanni Manu, and he's not ready for that opportunity right now, as we can see. All three of those guys have gotten worked by Aiden Hutchinson, so I feel for them. It's not an easy task defending that guy. He's kind of blown up the offense and blown up some of these plays so much to where Campbell kind of notices that sometimes they just got to keep running a play after Hutch gets a sack, just kind of run it as advertised. So yeah, that's been a bit of an issue. But in terms of the offensive line in general, I like what I'm seeing from the interior. I think they found their starting trio with Graham at center, with Chris Mahogany at left guard, and Tate playing the right side. I imagine that's what it's going to be when the season starts. And I think what Graham gives you at that center position is just someone that Goff can trust. And one thing Graham told us is like, hey, if you're going to make me play guard and then help out the young guys next to me anyway and make all the calls along with Jared, I'd rather just play center. I think that's easier. So I can kind of direct traffic myself versus having to do that and worry about playing guard. So I think he likes that position, likes the challenge. And he's always been a high football IQ guy, a really smart player, good instincts out there. So I think that's a good spot for him. And then you put some really solid athletes next to him at guard. So right now it is looking a little shaky at times, but I think that's to be expected. Chris Mahogany, I think we forget this is only his second season. Sometimes he looks like a 5-year vet out there, but it's still very early. He's got 2 or 3 starts under his belt. And then Tate's a rookie. So yeah, it's not going to look perfect overnight, but I do think they're gelling. I think you see the signs of a powerful, people mover type of offensive line. And especially in that interior, it's just going to take some time to kind of gel and figure things out.
You said Manu just isn't ready. When will he be? And is that a problem, or is this going to be another kind of, draft and stash year?
Yeah. When they drafted him, they were pretty honest with us and said, this is a down the road, years out type of pick. And I almost feel like the success of others around him is kind of been detrimental to him and his development, because you look around, it's like, all right, look at all these picks and first rounders and second rounders that are immediately contributing to this team. You talk about Penei Sewell and Ali McNeil and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Next year, you got Kirby Joseph, Aiden Hutchinson. Like, even in the 2023 class was so special with the 4 guys that came out ready to start right away. And so, like, I almost think Brad Holmes is drafting too well for guys like Manu to be comfortable, because he's hearing it a little bit from the fan base, and people are like, all right, why isn't he like an all-pro right now? So I almost get those vibes from him a little bit. And he's a player that takes things personally, takes things hard on himself, because he knows that the Lions invested a lot in him. And he said multiple times, I want to do right by this organization. But at the same time, he was always going to be a project. And this was more like a year 3 type of deal for him than year 2. And he's got 1 year under his belt right now. We haven't even hit year 2 yet. So, you know, when we're seeing these growing pains in camp, like, it makes sense to me. I'm like, yeah, I'm watching a player that played Canadian football a year and a half ago. Like, this is kind of what I expected. And so kind of what we saw from him last year behind the scenes was learning the playbook and learning his responsibilities. That was a whole process. And then he mastered that. And now it's just, I think, thinking less when he's out on the field. And, you know, I think he still struggles with speed off the edge. And when you got a guy like Aiden Hutchinson disrupting things and you're going against him every other play, even Davenport, quite honestly, it's tough. And he's getting first team reps right now because Taylor Decker's been out. But I also think this is a good experience for him. The only way to get better is to have those reps and learn from it and grow from it. So I think this is a really good period for him, even if it looks rough right now. Speaking
of waiting for draft picks, Broderick Martin. And any thoughts? We'll just get these out of the way.
I mean, honestly, not a ton. He's a guy that you would like to say nice things about. I really can't come up with many right now. He's been kind of practicing with the 3rd and 4th string guys at a position where they could use some bodies there with all the injured guys they have. And that kind of told me, you know, if he's ready to make a move, he's going to be over there with the, you know, I say this all the time, but sometimes in practice they'll have like the varsity guys, I say, the 1st and 2nd string guys, the key guys on one side of the field for walkthroughs, and I would say more of the developmental guys on the other side. Broderick's been on that side. It's year 3. He's been injured. He hasn't had a full season of like staying healthy and contributing to a defense, even when they've needed him last year and currently this offseason and into OTAs and training camp. And so when I look at him and I look at the roster, I'm finding a hard time placing him in right now as we're looking at that. So I would have him out of my roster projection right now. I did one last week and he didn't make it. And I think that's kind of where things stand. Maybe you can keep on the practice squad and keep developing him behind the scenes if you want to give him more time, but I don't think you can use a roster spot on a guy like Broderick Martin right now.
Refresh my memory. You had somebody in last week that kind of leapfrogged over Broderick Martin. Who was that in terms of on the defensive line?
Yeah, there are a couple guys I considered. I had Nate Lennon, but he's more of an edge. But the other guy I like a lot is Keith Cooper, and he plays more at that interior position. And he's been flashing. He's doing the things that you want to see Broderick do. When I watch him, every time I look up, he's beating someone with the bull rush. He's, you know, shedding a blocker in front of him and making a play in the backfield for a TFL. And, you know, he's been doing that mostly against the second team, but he's also been getting more opportunities with the first team here and there. And I think that's a good sign of, you know, how they feel about him. I think it bodes well for his chances of making the roster. You know, Lions have a pretty lengthy UDFA streak here where at least one has made the roster. I don't know the exact number. I want to say like 15 years or something like that, which is pretty impressive. And if I were to pick one right now, it would be Keith Cooper or Nate Lynn. I think both those guys, I guess Nate Lynn is a 2nd-year guy, but Keith Cooper specifically for this class has looked really sharp to me out there. He's a guy I'll be watching in the preseason game Friday night and a guy that continues to flash.
More on Friday's game. I want to ask Colton, too, about the Ennis Rakestraw news that's out as well. We'll do that coming up next here on a Thursday, Locked On Lions. But first, let's tell you about our friends at Yahoo Fantasy. Yes, it's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and Locked On Lions are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Heck, we are officially 1 month away from Lions and Packers in week 1. All right, I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years. The updates they're rolling out this month are wild, too, in the best way. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout the month of August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, which is a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. The season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together. Give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, of course, you can still play in the head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Our buddy Colton Pouncy is with us from theathletic.com. Check out the new podcast as well, The Lions Collective. All right. I mentioned before, I want to ask more about the Falcon game and what you're looking at, but this Ennis Rakestraw news, I know he posted on social today. Shoulder surgery, at least a couple of months, right?
That's what it looks like. He posted from a hospital bed, and it looks like he was prepping for surgery. It might have just come out. I'm not sure. We'll talk to Dan, or at least the beat writers in Atlanta. We'll talk to Dan Friday night. But that's unfortunate for a guy that's kind of had this injury thing clouding over his career so far. He had those problems at Mizzou when he was drafted. I think that was some of the reasons why he kind of slid to pick number 61 there, because I thought he was a first-round talent, but a little bit undersized and a guy that struggled with injuries in college. And then he was so good in training camp last year. Like, he was making plays, it felt like every day in practice, to a point where it felt like, this guy's going to be a part of this defense sooner rather than later. He told us at locker room clean out at the end of the season that the coaches were prepping for him to, start at nickel in week 2 against the Buccaneers. But right before that game, he gets injured. Amik takes that job, kind of runs with it, never gives it up. And then this offseason, they kind of liked him more on the outside than nickel. And I was curious to see what that would look like, since they have some pretty entrenched starters in Terrion and DJ at corner. But I think you just want to see continued development from him in year 2. And hey, if we need you, you'll be there for us. But it was after the preseason game. They returned to practice. I believe it was Sunday, and they're doing a tackling drill. And I think he was going against Tom Kennedy, lands awkwardly on a shoulder, is just lingering on the ground there for a minute, and all of a sudden he's gone. And that was the last time we saw him. So if he does have surgery, he's going to miss some time, and that's something Dan told us. He's going to be down for a while. I don't know if it's season ending, but at the very least, that's a lot of missed time for a player that just needs, again, practice reps and just those snaps to be able to get better on the field. And when you're missing those, it's going to hurt your development. It's going to set you back, and you're going to lose some of the trust of the coaching staff. You can't stay on the field. I think that's the other thing here. The one thing they love is guys that can play through injury, and you don't want to force it. But for a guy like Ennis that has had nothing but injury concerns really since he was in college, they really can't depend on him right now. And it's unfortunate.
Rocky Sin has stepped up. I guess, if you had to pencil in somebody as the number 4 corner right now, it'd probably be him. And who else do you think is in the mix that you think has looked good?
Yeah, if they have an injury to one of the starters, I could see them putting, Amik maybe on the outside. If they don't want to mess with that, I think it's Rock. And I think that's a solid top 4 that you have in that secondary. And, we know the Lions use a lot of 3 linebacker looks. So Derek Barnes is going to play a lot on the field when Amik is out in that nickel package. So maybe they would lean on more of that if it comes to it. But yeah, I think that's probably your top 4. Khalil Dorsey is going to make the roster, but more on special teams. So, I would imagine if they want someone to play defense, they could either, call someone from the practice squad or sign someone from the outside. But I do like that top 4 a lot. You'd wish that Ennis were part of that to make it a solid 5, and then I think you're really feeling good. But as things currently stand, it's not the worst. Rock has a lot of experience, played well in that preseason game. I think you saw the tenacity out there, the competitive fire, can step up in the run game, make some tackles. So I think he plays the way they like their corners to play, and I think that's important.
What else are you looking for tomorrow night? What are you going to be focusing on?
Yeah, a couple players I'm curious. One, I don't know if they're going to be out there, but we talked about the 2 rookies, Tate Ratledge and Tyleik Williams. If they do play, obviously going to watch them. But a guy from last year's class, Sione Vaki, we haven't seen a lot of him in practice just because he's kind of been in and out dealing with the hamstring injury. He practiced Monday evening at that night practice. I thought he looked great, honestly. Looks really explosive, doing a better job running between the tackles, finding the holes with his vision. Those are all things that he needed to kind of work on, just because he didn't really have the snaps and the experience playing running back in college, since he was more of a safety full-time at Utah. But I look at him now, and, I'm excited about his future. I just think he needs to get those consistent reps at running back. And, he missed practice on Wednesday. I don't know if that's a sign that he's not going to play, or if they're just being cautious with him and giving him a rest day before the preseason game. I'm not exactly sure, but if he's out there, I would imagine he's going to get a lengthy workload. I really don't need to see much of Craig Reynolds. We know what he is. We know what he can do. let's see the young guys get some opportunities there. So he's got to be watching. Maurice Norris at safety. He's pushing for one of those spots. I think they have one more open spot for that fourth safety behind the, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, and Avonte Maddox. So that's going to be between Lawrence Strickland, Ian Kennelly, Maurice Norris. I think all three of those guys are vying for that final spot. And I've liked what I've seen from all of them. Strickland's more of a special teams guy. Norris is more of a defensive guy. I think Kennelly has a chance to be a mix of both. So it just depends what you're looking for at that safety spot. Another guy at tight end, I love me some Zach Horton. He's more of a fullback, but I love the way they're using him. Fullback, H-back, he's lining up in I formation, putting him in motion before the play, letting him kind of run out in space and seal off the edge for these runs. So I like him a lot. It's a little bit of a throwback game, but he's a lot of fun to watch out there, and I appreciate a good fullback. So those are some guys I'll be watching.
Yeah, another UDFA. Obviously, it was at IU last year. I was going to ask you, as far as like the defense goes, and obviously they're going to play vanilla. They're not going to do anything crazy, but a lot of love for Sean Dion Hamilton and what the linebacking core has done so far in camp. And this is with the Anzalone stuff, which I think has finally simmered down a little bit, right? Yep. Just talk about maybe that's a deep spot, and that's what the guys are hurt right now. And Anzalone's not even 100%, right?
No. Yeah. I look at the linebacker spot. I think they're in a good spot. I had 6 linebackers making my final roster projection, just the one I did last week. And, shout out to Nolan Bianchi. He wrote a good feature on Sean Dion Hamilton that ran this morning. I think he's doing a really good job with those guys. And he's a guy that was kind of in their shoes playing alongside them a few years ago, but he commands a room. He gets the most out of that group. Anzalone, he worked his way back and is still dealing with a hamstring, I believe. But, he looks pretty good out there to me. We know Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, those guys aren't going to play, but a guy like Grant Stewart, who came over as a free agent addition, made some plays in that preseason game against the Chargers. I imagine he's going to get more run. Zach Cunningham, a veteran, like that's some good depth. Like this is a guy that's played a lot of football in his career. So I think having those guys as, linebacker 4 and 5, and then the young guy like Trevor Nowoski, who the Lions, brought here for a reason. They like the fact that he can play all 3 positions. So it's pretty deep room. I would imagine only a handful of guys are going to play in this next preseason game, but I do think they like where they're at right now, and a guy like Sean is doing a good job coaching them all up.
You meant to say Grant Stewart, kick returner.
Kick returner, yeah. I think a lot of people were surprised.
Do that anymore, please.
A lot of people were surprised to see him out there, but that's been like the norm in training camp. So I didn't really think much of it until Nick Baumgartner's like, "Why the hell is Grant Stewart returning kicks?" I'm like, "It's a Dave Phipp special. That's a brainchild of Dave Phipp. He's going to do what he wants, and I think he likes the look, so we'll see."
But he shouldn't be carrying the ball. I mean, maybe this is like some newfound thing. And look, we know Dave Phipp loves these new rules. I mean, there's going to be more action. There's going to be more action there, but he's not. I don't know how natural that is for him.
Look, man, you watch practice. Grant Stewart's out there after the field getting some extra work in, catching balls. God. He's got some wheels. He's an underrated athlete. I'll say that. But I agree. It is a little weird seeing a linebacker return kicks out there.
He's got the hair too. So
absolutely.
All right, my friend. Great to see you, Colton. Thanks so much as always. And we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Colton
Pouncy with us. Please subscribe to The Athletic. They do a great job. Colton, Nick, everybody there. Shout out to my man, Chris Burke, behind the scenes at theathletic.com. They do great work. This has been a Thursday, a Locked On Lions.